Alright, video 3 here at the Verusteleka Remote Military March. I got done in the last video. I was talking about taking care of your feet and knees, and I took KT products for the feet just in case, and moleskin just in case. I also took duct tape, black duct tape. I always keep black, about 4 foot of black duct tape in my rucksack. Most of my medical kit this time was geared towards the feet, taking care of the feet. But I never did take my boots off for one issue. These are excellent boots, and they don't make them no more. They're Norwegian welt mountain boot, but they're leather, over the ankle, so they're legit. These wouldn't qualify for a paratrooper simply because they got the hooks, right? So these would be disqualified by a jump master if you went and were inspected, right? You do your pre-combat checks and whatnot, and your pre-jump checks. So let's see here. Pre-combat inspection, pre-combat checks, whatnot, checks for your jump master, and so those would not, that would not pass muster for jumping. But I didn't get these for jumping. I got these for walking over really crappy terrain. So anyway, coffee. You're gonna choke on this one, but I didn't take any coffee for the trip. I only took tea. So I had a few problems. I did. I went by myself. It's rough terrain. Not as young and strong as I used to be. I'm an older guy. So I had a few issues. Didn't have any foot issues. Didn't have any knee issues. I had an issue with the rucksack simply because of the crappy suspension that it has, which that's not going to happen again. I'm not going to go down that road again for nostalgia. There ain't no reason to suffer. I'm going to go with the modern piece of suspension kit. If I do something again, actually I do plan on doing this again. I'm going to do it in October. I'm going to do this in October because I think that it needs to be done in October. I told Verusteleka this. I said, you know what? I said, I'm proposing that this is changed to October, first or second week of October, because it's cooler and the bugs are going away. If they haven't gone away yet, they're going away. So it's cooler weather, less to no bugs, and you generally get better scenery in October, right? That's just something I'm proposing. I got that on my list. To them, what else do I want to cover here? Alright, well, navigation, I talked about my maps. So I got these maps I talked about, and of course I got the maps. You got to have a compass. You can't just rely on GPS. You got to have your compass. So this is a tritium compass. I've got a few compasses. but and I've got 2 or 3 of these US compasses. I know I got a Stalker and Yale, and I got, you know, a couple of Kamengas. The Stalker and Yale, I think you could just in the darkest of dark, it still glows a little bit, but not a whole lot because it's old. And then I have a couple of these Kamengas. This one's a newer one of the two, and they make these in Northern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere. You know, it's a pretty wide swath that you have there. So I talked to Kamenga because I was going to probably be going to Ecuador at one time, and I said, hey, I got this. It's a Northern Hemisphere. I said, I think that I need a Southern Hemisphere. And they said, well, where are you going? I said, well, I'm probably going to be headed into Ecuador. And the guy says, oh, he says, your Northern Hemisphere will still probably be viable in Ecuador. He says, there's a little bit of play there because, you know, there's got a lot of room for it to move on that gimbal, right? So I said, all right, but I still want a second compass, so I ordered a Southern Hemisphere. So I have a Southern Hemisphere. It's you know, it's kind of a I don't know, I don't know about those guys sometimes because they said, oh, it'll probably work, but you know, the thing was is that I got the Southern Hemisphere, and if one works in one, and the other one should work in the other, right? Well, I got the Southern Hemisphere Kamenga in, and it's you know, yeah, I think that's a little debatable. So you know, anyway, I got Northern and Southern Hemispheres. This is 3H tritium. This does not say controlled disposal required on the back though, like the old Stalker and Yale. So anyway, I always keep this in my top pocket on my uniform top. And I turn it sideways to where the rounded part is in the bottom of the pocket, and that keeps the wear down on your pocket. Right? If you want to go crazy with it, you could make a pocket liner out of 1000 denier Cordura, and you know, in the next century it'll probably wear out. That's a joke, but it's probably a true joke. And then of course there's the old paste beads here, and paste beads are something that you can either mark off 100 meters, 1,000 meters, or you can use them to mark whatever you want to mark, right? It's you know, it's something that you can utilize it for whatever you want to do, right? So you could mark off point A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and then J, right? You could do that. That way when you've gotten to your designated grid coordinate, you could just mark that off. You could go crazy. You could have two. You could have one over here for your distance. You have one over here for your coordinate. Nobody says that you have to use something because it's been used that way for donkey's years. You know, you can make up some of your own stuff. It also, you know, it keeps people guessing. that is on the outside, right? Because you got your inner circle and then you got the outside, right? Yeah. All right. We got 4 minutes. I'm going to use the rest of this time. I'm going to bring you in and we're going to look at the whiteboard. All right. We're going to look at the whiteboard. And we're going to have another slug of coffee. And while I do this, I'm going to turn around so you can see this harness setup I've got going on. There's a black ladder lock buckle over here. I'm going to teach you guys how to do this so that you know. Especially you military guys need to know this, because sometimes you have to adapt some of your kit to work in certain situations other than what's perceived as normal. And over here I have a side release buckle, okay, in black. And up here I've got 2 ladder lock buckles. Alright. Okay, I'm going to pull you in. This shouldn't take long. So I only got about 3-4 minutes left. But we're going to make this happen. Yeah, bumpy road. Alright. Turn this hall light off. Get rid of some of that glare. Yeah, I know the table's a mess. Oh well, you'll get over it. Alright, so I'm going to talk about this that I got on the board. I'm going to point it out as I'm talking. That way if you can't see it, maybe you just enlarge your screen or just follow along. So the Verusteleka is a Scandinavian ruck march. Well, they started this thing in 2020. But the thing is for donkey's years, since around 1915, I think it was, the Norwegians had an event. It's called Protect Your Country. And that's Norwegian there, and I'm not going to butcher it up. So that's Norse. And this is what it's called. MARSJMERKET. Okay, so I'm thinking it's 18.6 miles. So you have to do 18.6 miles, and it's 4.5 hours for young people. And then it's 5 hours for oldsters. So youngsters is 4.5 hours, and oldsters like me they get 5 hours. So get an extra half an hour for having gray hair. 24 pound, approximately 11 kilos for your ruck. Okay, your travel time is about 4.13 miles per hour for the youngsters and 3.72 miles per hour for the older guys. Alright, what do you get? So, the Norwegians, I don't think that they award these to in the military anymore as something official. I think they quit doing that, but the other branches of service around the world, you can get these pins. Okay, they got a bronze, a silver, and a gold. So every time you get in and you complete this, you get a different pin. Bronze for the first one, a silver for the second one, and a gold for the third one. And I learned recently that they're also giving a let me sit down here. They're also given a ribbon. Yeah, I got a minute left about. So they're also given a ribbon to go along with the gold pin now. And there's been two or three different sizes, kind of small and a little bit larger. Anyway, pretty much I think what a lot of the ruck marches around the world are probably based on that. You know, and this was geared towards keeping everybody combat fit, right? Even in peacetime, if you're a civilian, you know, so civilians could get involved in that too. But you know, the military would put awards for their soldiers and whatnot, right? So anyway, I talked about Verusteleka, which is a Scandinavian ruck march. It's an event started in the pandemic period. They got a couple of different versions of it. Okay. In my instance, look at a 50 clicks rucksack uniform overnight reconnoiter, blah blah blah. Right. What I'm proposing is that all this is moved to October, either the first or second week. I said cooler weather, less to no bugs, and better scenery, right? My rucksack weight goals for October, which is what I'm going to do this again in October. All right, rucksack weight goals: 25 to 35 pounds, or about 11.5 to 16 kilos. I don't think that 22 pounds is really very realistic, to be honest with you. Yeah. Distances: 25, 50 clicks. One way on approach, 25 clicks. Two ways for a recce, 50 clicks, because it's 25 one way, the recce, and then 25 back, right? Or you could just, instead of the recce, you could just do 25 clicks, or you could just do 50 clicks. Some guys are doing 100 clicks, because so you're either doing 50 clicks or 100 clicks, right? So if you mix and match all this stuff, so 50 clicks, you could go 50 clicks in a one way, or you could go in 100 clicks if you turn it into a recce. So you can go 50 clicks out, recce, 50 clicks back. That's for guys with tennis shoe boots, you know, or somebody who's younger. I think the 25 clicks one way, recce, 25 clicks back is good for us older guys. But if you're really feeling, you know, feeling your mojo, you could do 50. Or you got time, right? Some people don't have the time to do it. Just do a one-day deal, 25 clicks, or a one-day deal, 50 clicks. Now, military uniform, hat, blouse and trousers. So your bush hat, whatnot, boots, ankle plus, no trainers, no running shoe stuff, right? Choice of long underwear, wool socks. I recommend Darn Tough or similar. Something for your gloves to protect your hands. Bug suit is recommended, right? I always remember the hobbits. When Aragorn got the hobbits at Bree and he took them through the Midgewater marshes, that always comes to mind whenever I think of being out in the sticks. Right? Alright. Guys, I'll come at you in another one here and we'll talk a little more. I'll see you there.